going, everyone? Hope you're having a good day. So this is going to be our class 1 session 1. So for class 1, what we're going to be looking at overall is our first session is going to be tackling how to make a list inside of InDesign, and we're also going to be taking a look at using the pre-flight panel and how that can be very useful in terms of just proofreading through your document and double checking that everything is in place and in order before you export or save your work. And then moving on from there, we're going to be taking a look at masking inside of Photoshop and how do you bring those files into InDesign. And as our last session for class 1, we're going to be looking at some very basic interactivity with regards to InDesign and how you can use it and how we can create an activity from there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be looking at is how we can create a list inside of InDesign. So as you can see over here, I have a very basic list. So this is something, for example, if you had a table of content or anything along those lines. So this is going to be quite basic, just to show you how you can implement some bullet points and numbering instead of doing it manually. So right here in front of you, just have a very basic sort of list of made up projects. So we have our index, section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, and a reference list. So the goal now is just to, how am I going to place bullet points or number this so that it just looks a little bit more professional, has a little bit more structure. So before I start, I'm just going to duplicate everything. Before we go any further, I'm just going to duplicate my list over here. I'm just going to click Alt and left click and drag. So as you can see, what I've done is that every time I left click with my mouse, you'll see a green sort of pulsating circle to indicate that I'm left clicking, and if I right click, it's going to be a pink pulsating circle. Also, I have tried to place all the different shortcuts that I'll be using over here on the bottom right hand side, just in case I do something and you have no idea how I did it. So for example, with me duplicating this, I am holding Alt and left clicking and dragging, and that will appear right over here. So not all the shortcuts are going to appear, but the majority of them should. If I want to navigate like I'm doing now, it's not going to appear. I'm just holding down spacebar and I'm left clicking just to navigate around my page. With regards to the page setup, this is just a plain A4 single page document. It's just for the purpose of demonstrating how you can get bullet points and numbering. So the first thing what we want to do is I'm just going to highlight my list. I'm going to go down to type, and I'm going to select the function bulleted and numbered lists, and for this one I want to apply bullets. So as soon as I apply bullets, then you can see immediately that's how I get bullets. If I want to press enter over here, then you can see it automatically makes a different bullet, and this is how you can create lists in this sort of a fashion. If however you want these bullet points to be slightly smaller or slightly larger, a nice way to do that is once again I'm going to highlight my text. I'm going to go down to the type, bulleted and numbered lists. I'm going to say convert bullets to text. So what that does now is it makes these bullets editable. So I can highlight them and I can start messing around with their size. So right now they're on 23 points. I'm going to make them 50 points. You can see that they went increasingly large. So from here you can play around, you can make them smaller, entirely dependent on you. You should also be able to change the color of them. There we go, so now I have a pink bullet, and I'm just going to continue to just make a few more of them pink. Okay, so this is how you create a bulleted list. And over here for our second list, what we're going to do is we're going to add numbering to it. So again, same place, bulleted and numbered lists, and I'm going to say apply numbers instead of apply bullets. So once again, the same principle applies. I can't edit these numbers, and if I do go to the end of one of my numbered items and I press enter, it will automatically make a different number. So the way which you can edit these numbers is the exact same process. I'm just going to go down to the same function, bulleted and numbered lists, and I'm going to say convert numbering to text, and at this point once again I can then highlight my different numbers, and I can play with the font size of them, as well as I can change their color. So this is just very basic and very brief, but it could be a useful tool, especially if you have a large list or you want to convert a paragraph into some bullet points, just to add a little bit more structure and organization. So this is essentially how you're going to be creating bullets and numbered lists inside of InDesign. So from here, what I want to be looking at next is the Preflight panel. So all I've done is I've opened up one of our previous projects, which was this DPS design that we went over in class using the different masking techniques and Pathfinder tool. So before we get started, what I wanted to show you before we dive into the Preflight panel is if you want to check your spelling inside of InDesign. So for example, over here I've purposely misspelled these words, so it says expand your knowledge. So I clearly don't want this, and this is a big mistake. So I want expand your knowledge. And how you can check your spelling inside of InDesign is if you go to edit, and over here by the spelling option, we're just going to select check spelling. So what it does now is that it identifies the word which is not in the dictionary. It's going to change the word to, and I can choose whichever option I want. So I want knowledge, and when that's done, I'm going to say change. And the next word, it's automatically going to pick up whichever word is wrong next. So it's going to pick up expand, which is not found in the dictionary, and I want expand. So I'm going to select the word which I want, and then I'm going to say change. Alternatively, you can always say ignore all if you don't want any of that to be part of your spell check. And right now it's just picking up a whole bunch of other words that are probably found over here inside the placeholder text because it's not English. But that's all I want to do for now. So I'm just going to say done. I just wanted to make sure that my actual typing, the expand your knowledge, had the correct spelling and not some made up language spelling. Okay, so that's just a very nice way for you to just proofread through your work. Obviously do it manually by yourself, read through everything, make sure everything makes sense, and just as a final touch, a final precaution, then go to your spell check. Okay, so at this point, the majority of the time when you think that you're finished and everything looks nice and dandy, then we're going to just hit W on our keyboard, and this takes you into the preview viewport, so that it gets rid of all of your columns and guidelines, so you can have a better idea what your final project is going to look like. And the majority of times, I do understand that a lot of you work in this sort of fashion, so that you can see exactly what you're doing and you're double checking everything. But once you're in this viewport, or once you're in this preview mode, then whatever errors that might occur within your paragraph or your title or your subtitle or anything like that, it's not going to be visible to you, because this is what the final output is going to look like. So if we look closely over here, you can see that it says push forward and seek this come, with a little dash over here. So clearly there's more to this word that is missing, and over here, because this is placeholder text, you can't necessarily see if anything is missing or not. But once you get out of your preview mode and you're back into your general workspace, I can see that there are two little plus signs over here indicating that there's something wrong. Another way for you to identify this, if you are in your final preview mode, is by using the Preflight panel. So your Preflight panel can be found right over here at the bottom of your screen, and right now there's a little red circle. So this red circle indicates that there's an error. I'm just going to be jumping back quickly to our list document, and as you can see over here by my Preflight panel, it's got a little green circle indicating that there are no errors. So that means right now in this document there are no errors that need to be fixed, can be exported for print or just as a interactive PDF, whichever sort of format you want to export it to. Jumping back now to our DPS, we can see that there are two errors. So I want to identify what these errors are. So right next to the wording 2 errors over here, there's a little drop down arrow, and if you hover over it, it says pre-flight menu. So I'm going to be selecting that, and then I'm going to choose the pre-flight panel option, and this is what you're going to get once you open up your pre-flight panel option. So what a pre-flight panel is, or what pre-flighting is InDesign's way of identifying errors based off its settings, and just let you know that there's something wrong, something you need to pay more attention to in order to fix, so that there are no errors or mistakes on your final export or on your final save. So right now InDesign is using the pre-flight profile of basic, which is already it's InDesign's default sort of pre-flight setting, and right now it's picking up that there are 2 errors with regards to text. So if I want to find out more about these errors, I'm going to click the drop down arrow. You're going to see that it says overset text, and that means is that I have too much text inside of the created text box that I made. So half of the word or a certain amount of words is not showing. So right now it says if I hover over here, 2 instances of this problem have been detected, so I want to see where they've been detected. I'm going to click the drop down arrow over here by overset text, and you can see over here that it's indicating that there's a text frame that has too many words in it, or the text frame is too small, and over here the exact same error. So it's also a text frame error, meaning that there are either too many words inside the text frame that they don't fit, or that the text frame is too small. And if you're working with multiple pages, so at the moment now I do have multiple pages, but the rest are completely blank. I'm solely working on page 2 and page 3, and you can see that my error has occurred. It's a text frame error, and it's occurred on page 3. So if I click page 3, it will automatically take me to where this error is. So this is where the error is now. It has highlighted it for me and indicating that there's a problem here that I need to fix. Similarly, if I want to view the error over here on this text frame, I'm going to click the number 3, which is page 3. And once I do that, it now highlights that my error is over here with my subheading and not the paragraph this time. So once you've identified this, I'm just going to move the pre-flight panel a bit to the side. I'm going to zoom in. So over here with our subheading, I can see that there is a little bit more of the word that needs to be visible. So I'm just going to drag out my text box to make sure that all the words are now visible. And as soon as I did that, I hope you notice that that error of that text frame has now been removed from the pre-flight panel, meaning now that this word is fine. All the words and letters and glyphs and symbols that have been placed inside this text box are now visible. My next error over here is that there's too much text inside this text box once again. So I can either elongate my text box, but because this is simply just placeholder text, I'm just going to remove a portion of it. And as soon as I remove a portion of it, then you can immediately see that the little red plus sign has gone away and there are no more errors found in my pre-flight panel. So if I close this right now, you can see at the bottom I now have a green icon, and it tells me that there are no errors within my document. So this document as it stands right now, I can save it, there's no errors, it shouldn't be any problems if I have to export it or send it out to go and get printed. So that's nice and very powerful tool. Another thing just to pay attention to, or just to notice, is I did mention before that right now we are working with the pre-flight profile of basic. So InDesign has 2 different profiles which you can switch between. It has the basic working profile and the digital publishing profile, but we're not really sure what exactly it's looking for. So if we go to the little burger menu on top over here of the pre-flight panel, and we go to define profiles, and right now I'm inside the basic profile. So that's the profile which we just used to identify our errors. And inside this basic profile, you can see exactly what InDesign is looking for within the basic pre-flight profile. So we can see that right now it's looking for links. So the basic profile, the basic pre-flight profile, will let you know if there are any missing links, or if links have been modified, meaning if you drag in an image and then you move your image into a different folder and now InDesign can no longer pick up this image, it'll let you know. Or to let you know if there are inaccessible URL links. So if you copied a website URL to paste it inside of InDesign and you maybe didn't highlight a specific letter, or or there's an error with the website and that URL cannot be accessed, then InDesign is going to let you know, so you can change it or fix it. Another thing that the basic profile is looking for is text. So it will identify if there's any overset text. So that is exactly what we just did now. There was overset text inside our paragraph as well as in our subheading. InDesign is also going to be looking for any missing fonts. So if you use a specific downloaded fonts from Google Fonts or from the Adobe Creative Cloud, you save your project and you open up the same project without packaging it into, you open it up on another computer, either at home or at Varsity, and you didn't copy over those font files, or you didn't package your work, then InDesign is going to let you know that there's fonts missing, and it's going to automatically assign a default font for you if you choose to, or you can go and re-download the font, install it, and then InDesign should pick it up. So now, just to give a comparison, if we go to the digital publishing tab is looking for the exact same issues and problems that the basic tab is busy looking for. But something which is also quite interesting, if you have specifics that you want InDesign to alert you on, if there's something wrong or if something is missing, you can always create your own pre-flight profile. And you can do that by clicking the plus icon over here at the bottom, which indicates a new pre-flight profile. And once you've done that, then you can assign a name for the profile. So right now I'm just going to put my name, Preflight. So Nico Preflight. And right now what it's done is it's copied over all the basic elements that can be found inside the basic Preflight profile, just to give you a starting point. So right now I can choose which errors InDesign should look for and which errors it should ignore. So right now I know I'm not going to be working with URL links, so I don't want it to spend time looking for these URL links. If I go down to color and I click the color drop down, I first have to select that I want to use the color, and right now I can see that once I click the color drop down, I am asking InDesign to look for specific errors. So over here it says cyan, magenta or yellow plates are not allowed, so I don't want that. Transparency blending space required, so I don't want that either. So color spaces and modes not allowed, so no, I do want that. Registration applied, so this I'm going to leave checked. So I want InDesign to let me know whenever I have used registration in place of black. So I would like to use black instead of the registration. So it's just a preference. There's nothing too wrong with using registration, but registration is not solid black, so that's just something to keep in mind. It is something that we've gone through in one of our previous classes, but I just want InDesign to be aware of that, and I wanted to let me know whenever I've used the registration black instead of pure black. Overprinting applied to InDesign, overlapping white. So spot colors, no, that's fine, I don't mind using them. And right now I'm going to go down to images and objects. I'm going to close the color tab, and I want InDesign to let me know about image resolution. So image color, minimum resolution, yes, that's fine. So right now, by having this icon checked, InDesign is going to let me know if I have an image that has a resolution quality of 250 or less. So any low resolution images, InDesign is going to let me know, so I can go and replace them with higher quality images, so that I don't have any pixelation with regards to my final export and my final project. Bleed and trim hazard, interactive elements. So right now I'm not working with any interactive elements, that's fine, I don't need that. A minimum stroke weight, so if you want to, then you can ask InDesign to let you know if you've created a shape or a graphic or you've applied a stroke to an image that is less than that is more than this point size. So right now it's going to let you know, it's letting you know that the minimum stroke weight is this. So anything less than this, InDesign is going to red flag and let you know, listen, you have a stroke that is way too small, increase the size. So there's a whole bunch of different elements which you can go through and you can play around with to sort of customize the experience more to yourself. And again, you can look for page size and orientation. Are there blank pages? I want InDesign to let me know that there are blank pages. Bleed and slug setup. So once you've sort of gone through all the different elements and you've chosen exactly what you want and what you don't want, then you can say OK, or you can actually save it. Let me rather save it. This is going to be saved under the Nico Preflight profile, and I'm going to say OK. So right now, if I go back into my Preflight panel, you can see that our profile is still set up to basic and working. So if I go to the drop down arrow, then I'm going to select my profile, and immediately I can see that there's some errors. So let's see, what is our first color error? So our first color error is overprinting. Graphic frame over here, I'm going to look at it. So this means that my image is slightly going out of frame, and that's because it is cropped. That's one of the errors. Image and objects, image resolution, transparency. So there's a whole bunch. So over here I have an image problem with the resolution, I have a bleed and a trim hazard. So there's a whole bunch of different errors that occur. So right here it's telling me I have blank pages, page 1, 4, 5 and 6 are all blank pages. So you can completely customize your InDesign Preflight profile to pick up specific or certain elements that you don't want to, that you know you're not going to necessarily pay too much attention to, and you'd rather want InDesign to alert you whenever you do make these small mistakes. It could be something that completely eludes you. So for example, maybe the stroke size, or maybe you wanted to identify a font that is smaller than 5 pixels. You don't want it to be 5 points, excuse me. You don't want a font smaller than 5 points. Or you don't want to use any spot colors, you just want to use pure CMYK. So the Preflight panel can be quite powerful. You just need to know how to use it and experiment around with it. Figure out what you want InDesign to look for, what you don't want it to look for, and it's a nice way of just double checking your work. That, working in conjunction with the spell check and you manually proofreading through your work, should result in quite a well balanced, well structured, and a project that has correct spelling, correct spacing, and suits your personal requirements. So yeah, I hope this tutorial was quite informative, and that you understand what the Preflight panel is, how you can use the Preflight panel, as well as just the basics of creating a list using bullet points and numbering, and how you can edit the individual numbers or the individual bullet points. So yeah, I hope this was quite informative, and peace.